toss this away. Who cares? Well, hello, everybody. Thank you so much for coming to my talk. I hope you're all doing great. Are you all tired? Yes. Are you all energized? 2 more sessions and we're done. Yay, for today. All right. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for coming to my talk. My name is Shruti Kapoor, and my formal introduction is your favorite entertainer, developer, and content creator. Because I don't work at 9-to-5 jobs anymore. I quit my 9-to-5 to start my YouTube channel. And guess what? This is the only slide I have. Because I don't have slides today. Today, we're going to look at a React app and see how to optimize it, take it from a slow app to a fast app in 25 minutes, so wish me luck, because I don't have time, but I got so much shit to do. Let's go. OK, can you all see my screen? Perfect. So I built Netflix called ReactFlix. On the left side is my unoptimized version, and I have receipts. 30 seconds LCP. On the right side, I have the optimized version, 1.28 seconds. So in this 25 minutes, we're going to take this app from 30 seconds to 1.28 seconds. Let's go. But before we do that, let's actually talk about what this app does. So this is a very simple, minimized version of Netflix. What we do here is we load this page. We have like a banner on the left side, which is kind of our hero image. This is where we tell people we've got all these movies. On the bottom, we have a Trending Now section. We can scroll through this to see more movies. And then we can click on a movie like this, How to Train Your Dragon. We see details, and then we can actually watch the movie. Hey, I'm not doing illegal shit here. I don't have the actual movie. So that's what we're going to build today. Let's get into our code and quit this optimized version. OK, so when you see this app, it kind of feels like there's not a lot happening. So you would think, like, why does it actually take 30 seconds? But if you think about it, I am loading all of these movies, all of this data, all of this video as soon as the user lands on this page. And that is why the LCP is super slow. Now, when you look at an app like that, you would think about, like, where do I start? Like, there's so much stuff I could do. I could optimize the video. I could optimize the images. Where do I start? So in my 25 minutes, I'm going to help you kind of think about how to approach this app, to think about the resources that it takes to take it on step by step, so that by the end of this talk, you can take a look at your apps and have some form of steps to take to optimize your app. So the first thing that we look at here is the LCP time takes 30 seconds. But the biggest thing here I want to take a look at is how long resource load delay takes and how long the resource load duration takes. Now, another thing that I want you to take a look at is, if I can maximize this, is when the LCP actually starts and when we actually start seeing the page being interactive. OK, so this is our app right now. It's unoptimized mess. What's the first thing we can do? The first thing we're going to do is take a look at what this bundle size looks like. Because if you look at this, it says the resource load takes very long. Why does it take that long? Let's take a look at what our bundle looks like. Now, this is what my current bundle looks like. On the left side is this biggest block, which is React DOM client development. If you look at your console, it'll probably give you an error as well, which says, do not use React DOM development for production mode, which is fine. I'm in development mode. I don't need to worry about this right now. But on the right side, you'll see that I have this giant hero image, the hero background, which is actually this big image right here. You can kind of see it, hopefully, in the back. It is kind of grayed out. But this image takes a really long time to load. We're not going to look at image optimization right now in this demo, but that is another aspect you can do for your images. We're going to take a look at code, though. Now, where is my actual code here? I can't really see. There's this like really thin slice. If I zoom in, it says source components. This is where all of my code is. Now, the first step to look at your bundle size is to analyze which of these components take the longest. In order to do that, we could code split. OK, So in order to do code splitting, actually, because I'm using Vite, it's actually much easier with Vite. All I got to do is turn on my minifying on, turn on my CSS minify on. I could use cursor as well to minify, but I've noticed that ES build actually gives me a better bundle size, so I'm going to stick with ES build. And I could also turn route level splitting on. I really like route level splitting, especially with TanStack router, because I'm able to see really well which components take super long. OK, let it rebuild. Oh my God, it says not found. That's because I need to install this. OK, reload this. Cool. And now if I reload, OK, I still have assets problem, no big deal. But you'll see that that thin slice is gone, and I have a much smaller bundle sizes here and here, because now it shows me exactly what bundle takes, which component takes how much. So if I look at these bundles, I'll see that movie detail is actually a pretty big one in my components folder. I can also see that there is another one, which is movie player, which is actually how the movie is being played. But I also see that movie list is pretty big. So 2 components that I highlighted here that are problem components are movie detail and movie list. So that is next indication for me, and movie card as well. So that is next indication for me to know these are the components I need to analyze, and these are the components I need to optimize. Let's take a look at what is happening in these components. So I'm going to open movie list. And if I see here at the top, I'm accepting a prop movies. In this component, I'm actually not doing much with this movies, except the only thing I'm doing is rendering a list of movie cards. This works fine if I have like 5, 6 movies. But if I have like 100 different movies that I need to render on the page, this can really slow down the app, because I am rendering every single one of those list items, even though the user may not need it. So one optimization we could do here is have a virtualized list component. This is a great way to add only the certain number of components that a user would see, and as they scroll, the virtualized list would actually load more components. Now, virtualized list is not something we're going to get into today, but that is another thing for you to keep in mind. However, remember that it accepts movies. Where does this movies come from? This actually comes from use popular movies function, which is a client-side call. And this is where I'm getting all of my movies. I can optimize this. But before I look at whether this is the problem thing, let's actually verify that this is the problem. So I'm going to go to git checkout. I have everything in a branch. So if you want to check this out later, you have access to this Git repo. Git stash this, git checkout. OK. Reload this page. Now, I'm actually going to take a look at Profiler to see which component actually is slow, and if movie list and movie detail are actually rendering my app multiple times. So we have React Profiler available with us, and I'm going to let it reload this page. This is a super slow app. I have actually throttled it. I am using slow 4G connection. I have disabled cache to actually see which components take too long. OK, so some of these components are memoized, which is good. But there is one thing that I could do with this, which is add use memo and use callback to my components that don't need to be re-rendered. Now, if I reload my app and see which components actually re-render a lot, let's see what Profiler does. OK, app is loaded. Now I'm going to record this. And there are a few things that I want to do in this. Trash this and redo this. Let's imagine that we are the user who actually wants to like browse through these movies. And let's see how long each of these components render. So I'm just going to scroll through this. And let's say this is the one that I like. I'm going to click on it. I'm going to let this page load. And I see it. And I'm like, no, I don't like this. I go back to movies. And then I select maybe Nobody 2. That's it. Let's see how many times my app actually re-rendered through this. So if you see here at the bottom, my app re-rendered 54 times in just 2 user interactions. I looked at the movie list, I scrolled through it, went to another page, came back, and looked at the movie list again. My app re-rendered 54 times. Certainly, I can do something better. Now, if you look at the render time, you'll notice that most of these take like 2 milliseconds, 5 milliseconds, but there is this one giant peak, which is where my MovieList component comes out. And this is how I know that MovieList is the most problematic component here. So I talked about virtualized list. That is something we could do. But there's something faster we can do, which is add a React compiler, because React compiler gives you memoization out of the box. And adding it is super simple. We go to Vite config. I have this here somewhere. There. Add it as a plugin. And let it reload the app. And now if I reload this app, oh, I have to install this as well. Cool. Reload this app, maybe move it on the side. What did I say? This app is slow. OK, cool. Now let's reload our profiler and see. We'll do the same thing again. We'll go through the list, and then we'll select an item, and then we'll go back. So we'll see how many times it re-renders. So start profiler, scroll through the list, maybe click on the same some other movie again. Look at this list, be like, no, I don't like this, go back. Find another movie, maybe Nobody 2 again. Cool. Let's see how many times we rendered. OK, 50 times. Much fewer times like from previous, but the graph height itself of every component is a lot smaller. So now everything is almost re-rendering 1.1 milliseconds, which is pretty good. But this big spike here, which is still coming from MovieList, which means there is still some optimizations we can do with MovieList. Now, the problem with MovieList is because we're doing this client-side render, we're doing this client-side fetch of data, that is why this resource takes so long. And actually, if we go to our network tab, we'll notice that we're doing this fetch calls, which is what takes so long for this data to come. And another thing to note is if I look at my LCP, it actually tells me that the reason why this is taking so long is because I'm waiting for the resource to load. So there is something better I can do there. And that is call this data on the server side. So let's go ahead and do that. Git stash. Step 3, router SSR. OK, now, in this step, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add TanStack Start to actually render this data on the server. Let's see what performance metrics I get back. Oh, I need to install some stuff, pnpmi. OK, so with TanStack Start, what I'm actually going to do is in my use popular, I'm going to create a server function called movie server function, and creating a server function or calling data on the server is super simple with TanStack Start. All I got to do is create a server function at the top, and this is literally the same thing that I was doing on my client side in the use effect. I just moved this to another function called create server function, and now this renders on the server. Now, if I take a look, and actually let's measure the performance this time. Right, Vite config, go in here, reload this. OK, go back to movies. And now I'm going to see how long this app now takes. OK, trash this thing, and then reload. OK, 7.67 seconds. Much better from the 24 seconds thing I was seeing. And literally all I did was move that one fetch function on the server. Now what happens here is I'll show you how this actually renders on the client. So when we call this, I'm going to do this again, reload this page so we can see all the calls. So look at how many fetch calls I'm making here. When I load this page, I have no fetch calls. That is because the data is actually being rendered on the server. The data is being called on the server, and we're literally just sending the data over. But if I look at the doc, you'll notice that in the doc, I have all of these movies already fetched in. So I am not redoing all of that work, or I'm not calling the APIs on the client side. There's one more cool thing. If I hover on these, don't reload. OK, if I hover on these, and go to my fetch, hopefully. I guess it's not showing. Let's try again. Reload this page. Hover on them. There it is. Wait, stop running away. Where did you go? OK, never mind. Basically, what I'm doing here is, as I hover on these, I'm also loading the next page already with a prefetching. So instead of having to wait for that page to actually load on the next time you open that page, I'm already preparing the app to be ready with the data that the user would probably like to see. And I'm doing that with a with a prefetch of intent. So now this data is already ready to go. I don't even have to wait for this data to come. I'm already loading this data as the user has hovered on it. And that is also through TanStack Router. OK, so my LCP right now is, let's see, it's 7.67. OK, not the best, but we've come a long way from 24 seconds. Now, if I take a look at what is actually taking that long, you'll notice that element render delay has come down from 2400 to 7.5. This is what is taking the longest time to actually load data. But what is taking this long? So if you look at the network tab, you'll notice these are all actually images. And we talked about we are not doing image optimization yet in this. One thing that you can do is actually move the images on CDN so that your images are actually delivered much faster. But let's say that we don't have the way to do that. There is something still that we can do for our images. So remember, we said that this hero image actually is one of our important images. We need to make sure that we are loading the hero image as soon as we render this page. Because it's part of our branding, this is important to us. Not all images are equal. Hero image is important, but maybe these images in here are not as important. Because what if the user never even scrolls to them? We have like 50 items, and the user never scrolls to them. Why do we have to render all of these? So one thing we can do is lazy load some of these images and fetch some of these images at a higher priority. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, so first thing first, we're actually going to, let's find image in our thing. And for our hero image, we're going to set the fetch priority to be high, which tells my app that this is the first image that I want you to load at a high priority, which means it's ready to go when the user is ready. And then for every other image, I'm going to put it on loading equals lazy, which basically tells the browser that this is something that you can do later on. So now when I reload this page, and also I'm going to enable caching as well, because I want to make sure that if I've already loaded this image, then I don't want to reload this. So if I reload this page and look at my performance, but actually one thing that I want you to notice is that when I reload this page, disable cache, hold on, disable cache, reload page. OK, I load some of these images because I disable cache, but if I keep scrolling through, I haven't even loaded the rest of these images. And that is how we can defer loading some of the images that are not important to the user just yet. And now, let's go ahead and make sure that we can see our updated LCP. 1.28 seconds. Cool. So let's recap what we did. First thing we did was take a look at how our components are slow and why they are slow. We took a look at our bundle sizes to understand exactly which component is slow. We took a look at React Profiler to understand which components are re-rendering, and we figured out it was MovieList. We took a look at what MovieList is doing, and we found out that it has this movies object, which number one is stable. Number two, we have a lot of different items that we are rendering, and we're rendering all of them in the DOM. So we could use React Virtualized to actually create a virtualized list. And we figured out that because we're rendering all of this data on the client, we can offload some of this work to the server by using server rendering with TanStack. And then when we rendered stuff on the server, we also took a look at our LCP to find out that it was still slow because our images were still taking a long time. The next step to do is to actually put those images in the CDN, get those optimized images, but also defer loading of some of those images, but also add some of those images to be a higher priority, so we have the app ready to go. And that decreased our LCP time. So thank you so much, everyone. I hope that was helpful and gave you some tips.